Very good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone, and welcome to this session. My name is Luca Di Mario. I'm a urban development specialist at ADB, and currently connecting from Italy, where it's 4 a.m. in the morning. But I'm very awake and excited to moderate this deep dive session called Better Together, Innovating Socially Inclusive Waste Management Systems. Better together means that two or more things are better in each other's company than otherwise. And in this session, we discuss how technology is great for waste sorting and management, but even better when it is socially inclusive and provide benefits to local communities. Today, we have a fantastic panel of speakers and presentation lined up. But before we start, I would like to ask you from which region you are connecting from. And please answer to the poll that is on your right-hand side. Are you connecting from the Pacific region, South Asia region, Southeast Asia, East Asia, Central Asia, or Central West Asia, or other region? Let's wait for the poll to come. We're very looking forward to see from where you are connecting and the diversity of this group. Okay, so let's wait a couple of seconds for the poll to come. Okay, we see also, a lot of you are now joining this session. So again, welcome to many of you. Okay, let's see, waiting some of your answers to come. Okay. So it seems there are some delays with the platform. We will get results, in a while. So maybe we can move to a second question that I have for you. Is what type of organization do you represent? You joining government, international organizations, NGO, community, civil society, private sector, technical organization, academia, or other. So we also wait for this poll to come. I think there are some small delays, so let's be a little bit patient. Okay, so it seems that we will get the results in a while. So let's start with this very exciting session. So solid waste management is a universal issue that matters, I think, all of us, and is critical to achieve sustainable development. More than 90% of waste ends up untreated into the environment in low-income countries, and it is the poor and the most vulnerable who are disproportionately affected. Poorly waste management is polluting our oceans, and every minute, every day, almost the equivalent of one garbage truck of plastic is dumped into the sea. We don't know that this is clearly not sustainable, and we have to act fast. So we really need to focus our effort to establish systems to manage our waste more sustainably. generate less waste, and shift away from linear models and into this more circular economy. In this session, we will take a deep dive on the available scalable solution and technology for the management of waste in Asia and Pacific. With a large share of the informal waste economy across the region, this session will especially focus on models that are socially inclusive, practical, and have the potential to scale up across ADB developing member countries. So, as I said, we have fantastic panels of speakers. We have James Baker from Senior Circular Economy from ADB, who is basically who is responsible to is leading ADB's regional marine plastic reduction program, and is supporting the operationalization of Strategy 2030 and Healthy Oceans Action Plan. James has decades of experience in solid waste management and industrial recycling, and is currently studying his PhD at the University of Leeds. So James, over to you with your presentation, which will focus more, I guess, on the technologies or the interface with the society. So over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Luca, and good morning. Welcome, everybody. So I'd like to run through a quick presentation that looks at the recycling technology available to us as waste managers, as project developers, as communities. And one thing that you'll learn as you start to get into circular economy, into waste management, that both waste and waste management technology take a lot of sorting. There's a lot of available solutions. There's a lot of new and innovative solutions. Some of them work, some of them don't. And it's our job to try and understand which are the best solutions. And the other thing you understand is that one solution doesn't work everywhere. Every city, every town, every country has its own specific challenges and its own specific solutions. So waste is a mixture of everything. We talk about source segregation, and we'll come back to that later. But typically waste, especially in developing member countries, is a mixture of everything. It's food, it's plastics, it's papers, organics. And what we have to look at is how we separate that out, because until we can separate it, we can't even begin to recycle it. We can't have that contamination. And that's where we start to look at the infrastructure, the public involvement, and how we either keep that waste separate or we separate it once it's in the waste stream. So we have low-range technology, a site I think a lot of us are familiar with, either sorting in the landfill or sorting at the roadside even before it gets to the landfill. And this is a viable recycling solution. It's a good way of getting the plastics out of the waste and back into a circular economy. We want to be capturing these plastics. We want to be controlling them as early as possible. The ideal world is source segregation, but separating it immediately after collection is another good solution, and it's widespread and widely available in our countries. The next step up from that is when we start to look at mechanical sorting, a mid-range technology. And this starts to provide more decent jobs. One of the problems with public sorting or sorting on the landfill is it's dangerous, it's unhealthy. And we start to look at investing to make those jobs better. We don't want to lose the jobs. We don't want to lose the revenue for the informal collectors, but we need to try and make it safer, and we need to try and make it more efficient. And one of the key things for a circular economy is that efficiency in separating and trying to make sure that we get all of the same plastics in the same place. And by using mechanical sorting, we start to see that happening more effectively than we do on roadside sorting. So how does mechanical sorting work? It's actually a very simple process. There's lots of technologies around it, but the processes and the physics stay the same. Size, separate big from small. Two-dimensional and three-dimensional. Separate flat pieces of paper from cans and boxes, and we can do that with a ballistic separator. Magnetism, separate the metals from the other waste. And density, separate light materials from heavy materials. We either use a fan or we use speed. If we throw a brick or a phone, it will go a lot further than a piece of paper or a piece of plastic or a single-use carrier bag. And these concepts, these ideas for separation as mechanical sorting, you will see around the world. And they're the core systems for separating waste. The enemy of that, unfortunately, is moisture, is food contamination. So then we start to look at higher range technology, digital sorting, which is replacing the human element, but using the same process. The machine looks at the material, identifies the material, and selects that. It uses the same process as a human being, but it does it without the human contact with the waste, the human contact with the potential contamination. And it does it over a much more uniform process, a much more efficient process throughout the day. One of the problems we have with human pickers and human collectors is they get tired, they get distracted, and that reduces the efficiency from a circular economy point of view, reduces the efficiency from a recycling point of view. But then we take the next step into the ultimate in high-range technology, which is waste avoidance. How do we stop plastics entering the waste stream to begin with? And this is where we start to see items like reverse vending, is source segregation, so that plastics, the valuable items which we want to see back in the circular economy, we want to prevent entering the environment and entering the oceans, are collected before they ever reach the waste management stream and fed back into the circular economy. This, however, is very, very difficult for us in developing member countries. It's very expensive, but it's something that we can aspire to. It's something that as ADB, we're working to support the integration of these technologies into developing member countries, into the management of plastics, into the reduction of plastics reaching the oceans. But it's only one part of that much bigger picture. And as I mentioned, one solution doesn't fit all. So when we start to look at the challenges of operations and maintenance in the waste management industry, we start to look at value in the waste stream. Is there plastics that are valuable enough to recover? Are there plastics that aren't valuable? Should they be removed before they're even brought into the country? Well-presented waste. How do we work to make sure that the waste that is coming out of houses, that is coming out of cities, is suitable for recycling? Can we keep it dry? Can we keep the food away from it? All of this allows for us to collect more plastics, recover more plastics out of the waste stream into the circular economy and prevent it reaching the environment. Effective operations and maintenance, and this is a challenge we have as we move up the technological scale. Human sorting is very easy to manage. It is capable, but it's not a good job. It's not a safe job. If we try to replace those jobs with equipment, with mechanics, then you have the problem of the maintenance. The machines don't run as well. They need to be looked after by skilled operatives. They need technological support that might not be available in your countries. And then we start to look at enabling environments, policy, legislation. How can we use government policy to make recycling easier? How can we make legislation to punish people who deliberately pollute the environment and make it a fair playing field for those companies and those businesses and those communities who are trying hard, but are penalized because they are trying hard, whereas other people just don't care. So we need to look at what do we buy? How do we select our recycling technology? And the first decision has to be human and environmental health. Are we maintaining livelihoods? Are we maintaining the health of the people that we're working with? Can we use systems, frameworks to promote the collection of waste, to promote community involvement in the segregation, in the sorting, and in the recycling? The second we look at is that recycling and reuse. So everything that we can divert away from landfill, we can divert away from the environment, is a positive. It doesn't always necessarily have to go into a full circular loop, but that process of controlling and managing the waste prevents it entering the environment, prevents it entering the oceans. And then ultimately, what we're all trying to achieve here is to reduce the occurrence of waste. How do we prevent single-use plastics entering our waste stream? How do we prevent food wrappers being used by manufacturers when they could use a biodegradable alternative? And it's these types of activities that ADB and my fellow panelists today are going to discuss and start to look at the different options that we have, the different ways we can work together with our communities and integrate technology, integrate innovation into the systems that are already there and support their development into the circular economy. Thank you very much, Luca. I'll hand it back to you.
Thanks a lot, James, for a very comprehensive presentation, giving us, a very good overview of the, the ranges of technologies, but also I think the interface and the link with the, with society and with us, because we are, solid waste management starts from, exactly from us, and we have a huge impact on it, starting from the consumption as well as the way we dispose and we segregate the solid waste management. Solid waste. I would like to remind the audience that you can submit your questions in the Q&A session in the right end of the platform, and we will sort of collect those questions and ask to the panelists later on. Now, moving forward, I would like to introduce Siddharth Hande from Kadibala Connect. Siddharth is a founder and CEO of Kadibala Connect, award-winning social enterprise in the field of solid waste management. He focuses on developing scalable and inclusive solutions to collection, aggregation, and processing of waste in cities in developing world. And it's very interesting as he's trying to leveraging the informal waste ecosystem, which is a very substantial part of the solid waste management in many developing countries, and try to leverage this ecosystem to improve circular economy. So, Siddharth, the floor over to you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Luca, and very nice to meet everyone. So exciting to be here. Thank you so much for having me. So my name is Siddharth Hande. I run a company called Kadibala Connect, and my perspective really is to kind of maybe look at the baseline, the data side of things. So I guess for me, like our kind of perspective on an inclusive waste management supply chain or recycling supply chain all comes down to recognizing the different actors in the system first, and then finding how can you integrate them. And for us, our real focus is looking at the informal supply chain. So for me, I think the biggest issue that we see that kind of hinders an overarching holistic view of how do you integrate the informal waste supply chain is how we think about the different stakeholders. So right now, for example, we really know what a waste picker is, and there's a lot of consensus on their role, etc. But then what about these aggregators in the system? So, for us, again, this is just a visual to show that we actually don't have any distinction when we talk about anybody apart from a waste picker. Are they a itinerant buyer? Are they a wholesaler? Are they a middleman? Are they a scrap dealer? And I think that from us working on creating unified typologies is very critical for the integration of the informal waste supply chain. From our perspective, we do a lot of mapping of these supply chains. And in India and Indonesia, we found two other key stakeholders, we would say, in informal work, and what we call level 1 and level 2 aggregators. So really waste pickers selling to these small scrap shops who are really material agnostic, and whose main feedstock comes from waste pickers and even residents from the local neighborhoods in Indian's tier 1 and tier 2 cities, who then sell on to these larger scrap shops who are more like material recovery facilities. They handle very specialized feedstock. Their main feedstock comes from these smaller scrap shops, and they really do the kind of pre-processing that is really required by processors to kind of consume that feedstock. In Chennai, just as an example, we found that the supply chain was collecting about 130,000 tons And especially with plastic, they're already collecting a lot of PET, but they're also collecting PE, ABS, PVC, and things like this. And 130,000 tons a year is an incredible number, which is because it's about 24% of what the city generates. And if there was a formal contract, that's a multi-million-dollar contract. So, from our perspective, creating these baselines of informal, but I guess also formal infrastructure is really a key point where you can really leverage that data to build local contextual strategies. And again, when you think about the informal supply chain, it's relevant in India, it's relevant in Indonesia, really many, many cities, tier 1 and tier 2 cities in the global south. So I guess I'll stop there, but really, I guess my main point is we need baseline data. We need this kind of information that really informs the policy making, really informs the decision making around what technologies are relevant and things like this. Thank you very much. Back to you, Luca.
Thanks a lot, Siddharth. This is, I think, a great and very useful application, especially, because it's very difficult many of our developing member countries to keep track and to capture the amazing contribution of the informal sector, especially on recycling. We all know it's happening, but it's very difficult to capture, the magnitude and also, where and what, intervention, how we can also facilitate those informal sector to enter into and to be recognized and enter into the formal chain of solid waste management. That's great. Thanks a lot, and looking forward to the Q&A with you. So now we don't have a panelist, but we have a very interesting video coming up about a super bin. You may wonder what a super bin is. Let's just check the video.
Once upon a time, they traded with shells, and then traded with gold. And now they were trading with trash. What? You heard it. Trash. Even you put only one can or pad, Superbeam measures the market price of the resource and return it to cash. And it's very fun. Just like play, trash is not trash anymore. Trash is money.
우리가 편리하게 사용하고 대량으로 버리고 있는, 무분별하게 버리고 있는 플라스틱을 자원화하기 위한 순환 경제를 설계하고 있는 슈퍼빈입니다. 우리는 편리함을 위해서 또는 풍요로움을 위해서 많은 플라스틱 제품을 쓰고 있고요. 실제로 그 플라스틱 제품들은 재활용이라는 프로세스를 통해서 재활용이 되는 걸로 저희는 믿고 있습니다. 정말로 재활용 프로세스가 있다면 저희들이 주변에서 보고 있는 많은 생태계를 위협하고 있는 플라스틱 쓰레기들이 왜 그곳까지 흘러들어가게 되는 것일까요? 실제로는 존재하지 않는 것이 아닐까요? 슈퍼빈이 가지고 있는 이런 문제의식을 해결하기 위해서 저희는 두 가지를 가지고 이 세상에 나왔습니다. 첫 번째는 인공지능 기반의 로보틱스 기술입니다. 즉, 지금의 현재의 사람의 노동력에 의존한 방식이 아니라 폐기물에 대한 인공지능 데이터와 머신러닝이라는 신기술을 이용해서 저희는 쓰레기와의 전쟁을 해야 된다고 생각했습니다. 두 번째는 저희는 디자인이라는 언어를 가지고 있습니다. 디자인을 통한 이미지와 오브제를 통해서 우리가 무엇을 하고자 하고 왜 이 기술이 사회에 필요한지를 함께 설명해 가고 있습니다. 이러한 슈퍼빈은 사회에 두 가지의 문화를 남기고 싶습니다. 첫 번째가 쓰레기가 돈이 되고 두 번째가 재활용이 놀이가 되는 문화입니다. 이러한 사회적 유산을 문화를 만들어줘야 지금 저희가 가지고 있는 플라스틱 쓰레기와의 전쟁에 일말의 승산이 있을지 모릅니다. 슈퍼빈은 이렇게 만들어지는 순환 경제에 대해서 저희 사업 모델화하는 작업을 하고 있는 회사입니다. 첫 번째가 분류 선별입니다. 로보틱스들이 사람을 대신해서 정말 재활용이 가능한 것들을 디지털 정보 기반으로 분석해냅니다. 수요자들에게 제공할 수 있는 순환 자원들을 선별해냅니다. 그렇게 할 수 있도록 인공지능이 탑재된 제품을 개발해서 현재 약 10만 명의 사용자들이 저희 제품을 쓰면서 재활용이 가능한 제품들을 투입하고 거기에 대한 보상을 받아가고 있습니다. 두 번째는 물류입니다. 저희가 모은 분리수거 제품들이 실제로 자원화가 되지 못하는 가장 큰 이유는 그렇게 분리된 것들이 물류 비용을 절약하기 위해서 혼입되거나 오염되는 유통 경로를 갖고 있기 때문에 재활용이 어렵습니다. 따라서 저희는 저희 자원순환 회수 로봇이 선별해서 모은 재활용이 가능한 제품들을 저희 물류망에 태워서 그것들을 가공 공장까지 가져갈 수 있는 저희만의 물류망을 가지고 있습니다. 이런 물류 차량들은 IoT 시스템으로 로보틱스 제품들과 연계되어 있어서 최적화된 동선 그리고 거기에 맞는 수거 체계를 저희들이 함께 설계해 가고 있습니다. 세 번째입니다. 그래서 슈퍼비는 인공지능 데이터를 기반으로 순환 자원들을 모은 것을 가공하는 공장을 직접 설계하고 있습니다. 이거는 현재 폐기물을 가공하는 공장이랑은 좀 다르게 선별 과정에 인공지능과 빅데이터가 들어가고 그 후반 공정에서 폐수와 화학적 공정을 최소화시켜서 전체 설비가 스마트 팩토리화되는 혁신적인 공정을 슈퍼빈이 직접 설계하고 있습니다. 이렇게 만들어진 제품들은 기존에 있는 폐기물 가공 공장들이 만들어낸 제품보다 훨씬 더 부가가치가 창출될 수 있고 저희들이 버린 폐기물이 실제로 순환경제 루프를 타고 다시 생산자들에게 제공되는 그 역할을 하게 됩니다. 슈퍼빈은 이렇게 만든 순환자원 회수 로봇으로 판매 및 렌탈 그리고 운영에 대한 사업을 하고 있고 동시에 이렇게 만들어가는 사업이 후방의 밸류체인 즉 이렇게 되는 물류망과 그것들을 가공하는 공장까지 만들어지는 전체 아키텍처를 내후년 2022년까지 완성하는 것이 목표입니다. 그렇게 돼서 국내 매출을 약 1,000억 정도를 달성하고 나면 그렇게 만들어진 사업 모델을 가지고 저희가 해외를 진출하고자 합니다. 왜냐하면 쓰레기 문제는 한국의 문제만이 아니고 전 세계 문제이기 때문입니다. 이제 새로운 소재를 바깥에서 찾을 필요가 없습니다. 저희가 풍요롭기 위해서 편안하기 위해서 쓰고 버리는 쓰레기가 로봇 장비에 의해서 선별되고 이송되고 가공되면 저희 도시 안에 있는 쓰레기가 자원이 될 수 있고 그렇게 만들어지는 자원은 저희가 지켜야 되는 지구 생태계의 생물의 다양성을 지키는 강력한 힘이 될 것입니다.
Wow, that's really a super beam, and it's amazing. It looks like really the future is now. I mean, applying artificial intelligence and optimizing also the not only the sorting and the collection, but also the processing, and it's sounds really a great solution. Of course, to the very high end of high technology and of the spectrum. Great, that's also very helpful. So with that, let's move on to the next panelist that we have today with us. And his name is Barak Eckstein, and is the founder and CEO of Ton to Ton. And Barak, for the past 15 years, has been developing initiatives to reduce disposable plastic, promote public awareness and environmentally friendly products and services. He will tell us how Ton to Ton, focusing on collecting and recycling plastics that are not part of the circular economy. I really like the concept of orphan plastics, which I think he will tell us now about, and the engagement with the local communities. Barak, the floor over to you.
Thank you very much, Luca, and hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. So what we're going to talk about, it's the big problem that we're seeing on ground today with closing the loop on plastic pollution. We divide the plastic materials we can find to two main sections. One is the recycled material that the industry consume and need today with very demanding goals of 100% recycled material in their product by 2024, 25, and so on. So the market for recycled material, which is the PET bottles, HDPE, LDPE, PP, and so on, is very strong. There is very good demand. It's a great thing. But on the same time, we have another part of the equation that the industry cannot consume, and this is the non-recyclable plastic, mostly the single-use plastic, mixed material, dirty material, soft plastic. And because the industry cannot consume it, that's why we call it orphan plastic. It's plastic that has no demand in the commodity market, and then therefore it's left on the ground. When waste picker come to collect it, they will take the plastic bottle that they can sell, but the non-recyclable plastic that they cannot sell, obviously they will not touch, and therefore it will end up in the natural environment, get burned, and so on. So this is the big problem that we are trying to tackle in Southeast Asia. 53% of the waste is not being collected. So what we are focusing on is the non-recyclable plastic, the post-consumer waste, and the one that is not being treated and collected by the authorities. And we can find plenty of places like this all over the countries. We work in Vietnam and Cambodia today. And this is the reality that we see the vulnerable communities, the coastal communities live in. And this is what we want to change, to give them the tool and work with them together in order to fix this situation. So to create and create the solution for the non-recyclable, the one that nobody wants, basically, we work and create this frame of the plastic credit system that allows company to support this impact, social, environmental impact, and then help us to collect and to work with the communities and to find a proper solution for it. So basically, the way to do it is like we heard in the video before. It's to give a value to the non-value. So if we can create, that's what we are doing, a new market for non-recyclable plastic. So the community and informal waste pickers can collect those plastics and bring it to us, or we come and take it from them in different ways. And then basically we can close the loop on much hermetic way on the untreated plastic, the uncollected one. And this is what we are doing. We are creating this new market. We offer them basically pay cash for waste. And then we recruit them. They bring in this waste into our collection centers, and then together we can create a bigger impact to connect all these dots. We create a project of plastic-free coastlines, which connect all the villages and all the communities, all the stakeholders that involving in different countries. Going to launch it next month, 17th of February in Vietnam, with a lot of great partners. And basically this campaign will connect everyone, including normal civilians, to create a shared impact with personal responsibility, with the aim of collecting 3,000 tons in 2022 with 5 collecting centers. So how the system works with the industry, companies all over the world can support when they buy credits. 1 credit equals 1 ton, and then when we set up the frame with them, we will collect the orphan plastic from the environment with the community and supply to the community sustainable income and better working conditions, and support them when they have medical needs and so on, and basically give them a frame and an option to clean their own surrounding area, which nobody do it, like this village over here, which hasn't been cleaned for like 20 years, and today, like we will see later, completely clean. Find a solution for it through co-processing, replacing coal with plastic waste, the non-recyclable one that the industry cannot decide. So we found a way how to bring it back into the circular economy and treat it in a very big quantities of ability of around 1,000 tons a day if we have the materials. And everything, of course, it's certified by a control body, third party, and working with independent certificates. So everything is verified and certified in the most secure and clear way. So this is the social impact that we are creating, not only with the informal waste picker, but also with the communities that find very good solution working with us. Some of them, it's a life-changing. Waste pickers can get to between $15 to $20 a day in places with the average daily income. It's around $3. So it's very good for them and for their kids. This is what we found, for example, in Vietnam village in Sihanoukville. this year and late last year, when we start to collect, and after around 3 months of working, we managed to clean most of the materials. Get cleaner every day with our trucks. We have trucks that go into the village and pick up from them if they don't have the means to bring it to our collecting centers, which we open next to the villages, and then it's bring them a grade. So this was before, and this is after, which is amazing results for them. And like this session, it's better together, and we say that it's take a village to clean a village, and it's take the international village basically to clean village after village. That's why we created a framework of a great partnership with the international organization, the local governments, industry like FL Smith, that we engineering company that help us to improve the quality and reduce any environmental effects. So a lot of great partners that working with us and helping us to create a change and impact and change reality in those coastal areas. Thank you very much for listening. Back to you, Luca.
Thanks a lot, Barak. And this is a great and amazing initiative. I really like, you're focusing on one of the, biggest issues with plastic, which is, the one that no one wants to intercept for recycling, and how you basically take these and also for the benefits, especially of the local communities. So thanks a lot, and looking forward to our discussion and the Q&A session. And I would like to remind everyone that you can submit your questions through the Q&A options in the platform on the right-hand side. And now we go on, and last but not least, Bharati Chaturvedi from India, founder and director of Chintan Environmental Action and Research Group. Bharati is a writer and environmentalist. She's a founder of the globally awarded India-based nonprofit Chintan, which works on environmental issues with the poor and women at the center of its work. Bharati, you will tell us a little bit more about the informal sector waste in India, and you will take us tell us some of the results of your work and of your research with that. So the floor over to you. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Luca. Hello, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. So as we clearly saw before us, we can see how fabulous and diverse the possibility of inclusion is, because while stopping the leakage of plastics, and you can see how Kabadiwala Connect was able to include informal aggregators in Southeast Asia, apart from India, and Superbin was including the community, and Ton to Ton actually did both community inclusion and end of use technology. So basically, we're looking at two scenarios. One is where there's a robust informal sector, and one where it's less prominent if it's not present. So in India, of course, not only do we have waste pickers, 1.5 million of them, but we have a whole bunch of aggregators. For example, in Delhi, we have nearly 10,000 first level aggregators. And those are only increasing in smaller cities. And we did a study in 2021 in 4 different cities: Delhi, Nainital, Pune, and Indore, which is, by the way, the cleanest city in India. Nainital is in the Himalayas. Delhi, as you know, is the big capital of India, and Pune is in the western part of India. And we said, how do you reduce plastics leakage into the ecosystem in a way that is inclusive of waste pickers? Because these are really poor and vulnerable populations. And so you really have to fight poverty as well, and including them does that. So our report, Plan the Ban, found that 41 to 60% of a waste picker's income was from plastics, and almost 30% of this comprised PET. So PET plastics, which is a huge amount. So waste pickers, firstly, are really dependent on plastics. So the challenge is, therefore, what do you do about that? So let me start with the law. And by the way, before I do that, we did several hundred questionnaires and worked with several waste pickers and aggregators in these cities to get our data. We triangulated it with the informal sector, with surveys, with waste audits. So this was quite thorough and quite, it's the first time anyone looked at this data. Firstly, what do you do? So the Indian law actually banned last year a slew of plastics that were low value, which were not picked up by the informal sector. And many of those are in our report, which identified these, and they were presumed leaking. So the law only comes into force on July 1st. Everyone got a chance to make that shift. So the first lesson is you can start with an incremental approach instead of, talking about a blanket ban, which we had previously before the pandemic in 2018 in a couple of states. And that was very easy, very difficult to implement. So that was fun. That was very, very impressive. But the new law actually is able to be inclusive. Secondly, waste pickers are able to diversify their services, and they have to diversify their services. We have small examples across India, even Chintan. We've been doing a whole lot of composting and all of that, but we really need to institutionalize it. Plan the ban suggested composting because 45 to 50% of the waste generated is organic. If it goes on landfills, it generates methane, as we all know. So we do need centralized and decentralized composting, and we need capacity to do that. If we're looking at the informal sector being involved in the circular economy, we actually need both refill and repair. And those need a lot of planning and capacity building, but those are absolutely essential to stop some of this leakage. And you can even refill with plastics. So we're looking at that. And then there are a whole bunch of other options also. For example, Chintan has a kind of startup called Pick My Trash, where we pick up waste, especially low value waste, from informal sector and help them channelize that to formal sector recyclers, which increases their income, but it also removes all of that low value plastic from being burnt, which is the most common fate for this kind of plastic if it isn't dumped into the river. So the thing about all of this is that it needs really big shifts in planning. Because, for example, if you want to do composting, you need space. If you want to repair, you need space. You also need the third pillar that I'm going to talk of, which is policy. For example, for what Barack was calling orphan plastics, and I love that term, you really have to have incentives. Policy can create that. Laws can create that. So if you want to add plastic in roads, in the asphalt, for example, it has to be mandated by law, because then you create a market. And in fact, that's one of the other things happening in India. You're actually putting 10 to 12% of plastics in some roads, and that creates the market. And that's another way by which you can be both inclusive of aggregators and waste pickers who pick up this low value plastic, but also stop leakage. So I'm going to conclude now by saying that if we really want plastic free oceans and prevent leakage into marine ecosystems, we have to be inclusive. There's no other option, because otherwise there's no other way to gather this plastic, channelize this plastic, identify it, and we're never going to win this battle otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bharati, for this, very interesting, insight, and very, very important insight, I think, on the informal waste sector. So, with that, let's start our Q&A session, and I think there are a lot of questions coming in from the audience, and perhaps I would start with the first question in the order of the presentation, maybe to James, and here the question is: there are many sort of these solutions that we the technologies that you have shown, how do you appropriately select them, and also how are you going to partner with the private sector? What is the role of private sector in all this?
Great, thank you, Luca. So there's two questions there. One of them is, how do we select technology? And one of the great things about waste management and circular economy is also one of the biggest challenges is that there are so many technologies out there. My experience, excuse me, my experience tells me that you look for technology that can work in a situation, that can be maintained, can operate with the skills and the team that you have there. We can all aspire to have higher technology and have the latest equipment, but the reality of waste management and recycling is that it needs to work all day, every day. So when we start to select technologies and look at individual projects and individual sites, that's always my focus and my recommendation. Start with something basic that can work and can help and improve the situation. And then once that's operating successfully, then you can build into bigger and higher technology solutions. The question about the private sector and private sector investment is you have to provide security. So as ADB working with governments and as teams working with communities, you have to be able to provide that security for the private sector. Give them the confidence to invest, give them the confidence to bring the money in, to bring the equipment in, and then allow that to help develop and improve the community response to waste management. So I think the message for how we work with the private sector is to partner with them, is to give them that security over time, and the confidence to invest and work with the community and with the government. Thank you, Luca.
Thanks a lot, James. And yeah, you rightly pointed out. I mean, we had in this sector, we had also many failures, and lots of the time was because we were so technology focused without really understanding the context we were putting the technology in, and resulted in sometimes in huge failures. So thanks a lot for your insights, and maybe Siddharth, we have a question for you. So in your experience, what kind of company and organization would find mapping of informal sector supply chains useful? Can you please answer to this question? Thanks.
Thanks, Luca. I think, it feeds well to this question about appropriate technologies and things. I think accurate baselines are really important for us to understand what is possible from a business process lens or a compliance lens or even a technology lens. So typically, we're doing a project in Chennai, for example, with GIZ, the German International Development Agency, where the idea is to collect some baseline data, where they're working with the Ministry of Environment, they're working with the local municipality to really try to understand how can they attack low-value plastic. So that's kind of one example. But on the other side, you also see private companies like, so for example, we're doing something with Saint-Gobain, who are kind of hyper-focused on the post-consumer glass landscape. And for them, the idea is not just the baseline, but what is the volume availability and price over every procurement cycle. So typically, in India, these procurement cycles happen week by week. So prices are set weekly, volume availabilities are set weekly, and things like that. On the other side, you actually have, companies like we're doing some work with Shell, for example, who really want to make first investment decisions in processing technologies that, actually collect from more regional areas. So from that aspect, where is the volume? What's the kind of feedstock available? These become very critical questions when they, plan their processing center. So across the spectrum, I guess, just to help make better decisions across the planning and implementation stage, this data becomes very, very useful. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, great. Thanks a lot. And let me see other questions. Okay, one for Barak. So one question from the audience is asking, how do you ensure, monitor, and incentivize safe working conditions, as you have mentioned in your slides? And also, I would add, what are the major challenges you face in implementing a community-based solution to mitigate plastic pollution?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Luca. I think first of all, for how to ensure safe working conditions, every waste speaker community member that join us goes through a training process in which you know exactly what to collect, how to collect, and at the same time we will supply them with full PPE gear as safe working boots, gloves, bags to collect, face mask, and so on. So this is the first thing, and everything is by the Zero Plastic Ocean Protocol for ocean-borne plastic neutralization, and all audited by a third party. Every collector is signed like a contract agreement in which you know exactly how much money you will get for each ton. Even if there is a hierarchy of a leader, so everyone in the group is signing this contract. So there is no any situation that the leader taking more money because he can or exploit any situation. So we make sure that everything is 100% transparent. So this is the first thing. And above that, we have people on ground in every site that going, monitoring, going to pick up. So we all the time in contact, direct contact with all the waste speakers and managing our own system, collecting system. So basically we control the whole process. Exactly. I hope it answered the question. Regarding the challenges, it's starting from the ground. So we need, like I said before in the presentation, a lot of corporations, start from the government. I would say then it goes to the local community, to the chief village, and then to the people, and later on, after the system is working, people get more trust because they don't believe that we will pay for this waste because nobody pay for this waste. So we are buying that and creating this new market. After they see that people make money, more and more families joining. We have 10, 15 people, new people coming every day to the center to register and join. The other challenge is on the other side, is to expand to the international companies, communities, why they need to be responsible also for the low value plastic and not just for the value in which they cannot take back to their product. They cannot use the energy that we creating and using from those materials. So basically they buying an impact. And that's a very new market, the plastic credit market. So this is another challenge. And so we put a lot of mind and investment on the storytelling and basically like what we are doing now. And I hope it helps. Thank you. Back to you.
Great. Thanks a lot. And the next question is for Bharati, and it's actually quite interesting because I think it touches this interface between technology and the informal sector. So the question is, there are many great technology solutions emerging. How do we introduce solutions like reverse vending machines and artificial intelligence without displacing livelihoods for informal waste workers? I think that's a very interesting and difficult question.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's actually extremely interesting for two reasons. For example, in India, in some of our railway stations and all, we have these reverse vending machines. And for whatever reason, people don't seem to use them that much, and the informal sector still picks up all of the useful plastic. And the reverse vending machines are also for PET plastic. So I think the first way to make a reverse vending machine both successful and usable and inclusive of waste pickers and other, not just waste pickers, but other actors, informal actors, is actually to look at franchising them to them so that they're able to run it, they're able to get that plastic. And I think sometimes what also happens is that we need to sometimes look at wider market options for sales to informal sector. Because if you have a capture and you have a very small bracket between, say, 50 cents and 60 cents for maybe a kilogram of low value plastics, then, and if that's not enough for the work that picking up plastics requires, then there will be no market. It's as good as no market. And so I believe that there are a couple of things. Should we franchise these to informal sector associations or individuals or micro entrepreneurs so that they can actually collect it, pay according to what will work for them in their business plan, but also have access to the best possible markets in these, which is a whole different model compared to some of the other ideas we've discussed here in a very different context.
Thanks a lot. I really agree with your comments. Now we have 4 minutes left for our Q&A session. I see some other questions coming in. Maybe one. Let me pick one, an interesting one. This again, maybe for Barak, and maybe some comments also from James is, to what extent does the orphan plastic require further treatment? For example, moisture removal, with removal of waste with low heating value prior to the conversion to refuse-derived fuel.
Yeah, so we need to supply to deliver the waste after a basic cleaning, and it should be clean from any organics, less than 10% moisture or up to 10%, clean from electronics, wood, metal, anything that is not plastic, and then the factory basically can process it. So all of this process is done in the center already from the waste pickers. They know exactly what to bring to us, and then we are checking everything and cleaning, drying. Sometimes we get ropes and nets and some garments as well that contain plastic. We need to dry, so we have a place to do it in our centers, and then we collect it, pack it, and every day or two when we send a truck, 8-7 ton truck to the factory, it needs to be already organized and clean from organics.
Thanks a lot, James. You want to add any comment or on this?
So I think that the concept of the orphan plastic, and we look at circular economy as a process over time. What we're doing today is not what we should be doing in 2 years' time or in 4 years' time. So when I look at those orphan plastics, and we accept that the solution today is that refuse-derived fuel, what we're looking at within our projects is how do we prevent them being orphan in the future? Do we find recycling technology that can recycle plastics like PVC or PP that are difficult to recycle at the moment? Or do we remove those plastics, polystyrene, for example, we discussed yesterday? Do we prevent those entering the market altogether and prevent them having to become an orphan plastic? So I think, the interesting thing, as Bharat said, we have solutions today that require that work, but the goal for all of us should be to prevent plastics becoming orphans. If circular economy works properly, and if our work with policy and legislation works properly, then we should avoid orphan plastics being in the market altogether. And I think that's the longer term solution we're looking for. Thanks, Luca.
Thanks a lot, and thanks everyone. I think we have 3 minutes to go, so it's time to wrap up this very, very interesting session and very, very inspiring and informative. I think we learned from the 4 panelists and the 1 video that there are available practical solution out of there. And both from the technology and as well as from the social innovation. I think we really need to try to help and scale up and replicate such amazing applications. So we had a journey where James presented us the different technology ranges and the different sort of challenges related to that, but also the interface and the importance that we all have in our everyday decision. With Siddharth, we really got a very great example on how we capture informal workers data and how we can leverage that to help them and bring them to the formal sector. We had this super beam, this jump into the future of very high tech applications with recycling, and then Barak with ton-to-ton experience, sort of helping communities and really intercepting these orphan plastics, and finally Bharati, your great insights on the informal sector issues, and also some ideas on how we can really bring them into the formal solid waste management. So I'm solid waste management passionate, and this session has been really inspiring, and I hope we can work together and improve some cooperation to bring those experiences where they're not implemented. And with that, I would like to thank everyone for first of all, for your presentation to the panelists, and everyone for your attention. And I would like to remind that this session has been recorded and is available on our virtual platform. There is also a virtual expo showcases 40 different organizations that have technology and finance solutions from around the world, including 14 focusing on plastic-free oceans. So go there and check out also other experiences. With that, thanks everyone, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.